That's kind of what we're doing. So that's why you had specific questions. Let's move on. So, this is chapter 4, okay? And it was all about engagement and armor of God and contemplating culture. So you probably need to have access to the BDPs, the A, B, and C that you have. You can do it on your phone, or if you remember, that's all cool. Because I made very few notes on here, but I did that first. So we're going to start with, let's just define engagement. And I mean kind of the one that probably the book was talking about, because we know that engagement can mean I'm going to get married. It can be, in the 17th century, it was more like a covenant. An engagement was like a covenant, and I know they're not talking about that, but let's just define engagement as simply as we can. Brett?
Arrangement to do something or go somewhere at a fixed time.
Okay, so arrangement to go somewhere or do something at a fixed time, like chemistry. I'll come back to you. What else do you have for engagement? Can be synonyms too. What does engagement mean?
Engagement means I use the marrying one, or if you're engaged between two groups, like if you're at a gathering,
Okay.
or it can also be used in like war terms.
True. Engagement. Fighting. So marrying, fighting, isn't that great? We have polar opposites here. Okay, anybody else have something different for just, what do you think the book is talking about when they say engagement? What were they trying to get you to see about the word engagement? Because obviously they don't want to marry you. And I'm pretty sure they don't want to fight with you. Yes, Abby?
Like the participation in something.
Okay. I think definitely participation. The words that I chose, and you can agree or disagree, is involved and committed. So the participation I see as totally, like you can see the involvement there, but there's another sense of I'm committed to this thing. Okay, so that's just, anyway, that's what I did. If you had something similar, whoop-de-doo. If you didn't, that's fine too, but that's what we're kind of speaking from. So what were your first impressions when they said posture and engagement? You need to read, write, and share culture with others. What was there the initial, oh crap, I gotta talk to people? Or what was your initial thought or thoughts? How'd you feel about them saying you need to read, write, and share culture? Or how does that strike you right now when I say that? I know you've already been through the chapter. How does it hit you? This is an opinion. Opinions. How does it make you feel? Rowan?
I didn't really understand like first what it was saying. It was like something about the words that like make sense together.
Read, write, and share culture?
No, it was like talking about like the posture of engagement and then the read, write, and share in culture and
Okay.
didn't really understand it at first.
Alright, well, what do you think a posture of engagement is? Can we narrow it down? What's a posture?
I thought of it like a way of doing things, like what you're expected to do.
Okay. But just in general, what's a posture? Abby?
Like how you like hold yourself.
Okay. Your stance. So you can have a basketball posture, which would be totally different from a football posture. which would be totally different from just how you stand, your regular posture. So a posture, I think, is very similar to what Caitlin said, but Abby kind of hit it. It's just how you hold yourself, how you stand, okay? So the posture of, so holding yourself as involved and committed, does that help? Posture of engagement, I'm holding myself as involved and committed. Part of doing that is reading, writing, and sharing. Does that make sense? Does it seem like too much to ask? Do you see some dangers in that? I saw your head nod, Caitlin. I see thoughts or evidence of thinking.
I was trying to think on the danger part that you mentioned.
Okay, so does it make sense
It
though?
makes sense, yeah.
Okay, Abby, go ahead.
For me, I was thinking like, so like if you're involved and committed in something and you have like a posture that's like how you're doing things, like to make a difference you have to be like strong in that.
Okay,
And so like our belief and knowledge in God has to be really strong before we can actually like affect anything and create new culture and like go against what other people would say.
okay. So it sounds like what you're saying is if we're gonna be involved and committed and have this posture of being involved and committed, part of that is bolstering the posture, being ready with knowledge, truth, some experience, just knowing what you know for sure, okay? What about, now let's think a little bit about direction of this involved and committed, and I think Abby kind of hit on that too. What are some thoughts about direction of this whole involved and committed posture? Yes.
Like how you should go about things, like where you're headed, and how you should respond to situations.
Okay, so things have a direction that they need to move in, or it should be moving in. Should it just stand still? Probably not. There's a movement here, okay? And initially it's like, oh, right way would be good. But this is a machine that moves forward, but it's also working as it goes forward. Okay, now that I've confused you, really, really good, let's go on. First impressions, that's what it was. All right, so one of your questions was, and it was question 6. It says a faithful posture is thoughtful, intentional, and long-term. So faithful posture, we're still on posture, it's thoughtful, intentional, and long-term. How would you, first of all, just define thoughtful? Brett?
Showing careful consideration or attention.
Okay, careful consideration or attention. What about you?
I said absorbed in or involving thought.
Okay,
That's what I did.
cool, very good. What about intentional?
Done on purpose.
Done on purpose.
Deliberately done.
No, deliberately done. So that one's, those are, how'd you define long-term?
Occurring over or relating to a long period of time.
Okay,
Basically what I said.
Occurring over or involving a relatively longer time.
yeah, which is what they said. Very good. So, for much time, it's occurring over, and I get this repetitive. So, when the sentence says a faithful posture, so that involved, committed stance is now called faithful. It's thoughtful, intentional, long-term. What kind of weight or responsibility or relationship do you see between thoughtful, intentional, and long-term when you put it in this whole faithful posture thing?
You wrote, you need to pay attention, to be thoughtful, to be intentional, and for something to be long term.
Okay, so you have to pay attention. They seem to, I mean, not to be duh, but they seem to go together quite well, right? They're kinda obvious. If you're gonna do something for a long term, and if you're gonna do it on purpose, and if you're gonna think about it, that would be kind of a repetitive posture. Do you think of these words, do you see them in any other example? Like, can you think of an example where there's thoughtful, intentional, long-term? Yes, Abby?
Just like any other relationship.
There's a relationship, has a lot to do with people. Yes.
A relationship with Christ.
Also true. But I think relationship really grabs that, like, oh, this is kind of important. Alright. In contemplating culture, your book said there's a loving of something, and there is a holding of tension. What are we to love?
Culture.
True, but they were a little bit more specific, Abby.
I wrote what we hope to change.
Yeah, that's
That's
what the
what I
book
said.
said. What we hope to change, we are supposed to love. What do they mean by love in this sense? Cause I'm pretty sure it doesn't mean you're supposed to go kiss it.
I love you.
It is not that one. What do they mean by love in that situation? That which we want to change, we need to love.
Like respected?
I think there's something of that in there. Yes, Abby?
Like care about it enough to like want to make a difference for like eternity rather than just like leave it alone.
Okay, care enough.
Kind of going along with what Abby said, like you have to embrace it and have a passion for it. Otherwise, if you hate it, you can't just change it.
Very good. Okay, you guys are on, I'd say you're on the right track. Now, what's the tension? We're supposed to love what we want to change within culture. We should respect it. We should care about it to the point of making it the best that we can. What's the tension that we hold? Right?
Living in a culture that isn't as it ought to be.
Okay. It's not the way it should be. Is it going to get to the way it should be in our lifetime?
Probably not fully.
Probably not fully. So there will be constant work, won't there? Will there be some victories? Definitely. Probably not as many as we would like. But that is going into a situation with, okay, I know what's coming. I know what it looks like. What are the consequences? I understand what I am walking into. Okay, then I asked you, let me see if I can find it right. Nope, that's not it. There it is. Contemplating culture, we're encouraged to contemplate what is behind cultural text, what is in cultural text, and what is in front of cultural text. When I say what's behind cultural text is just the messages that are in culture. So when it says what's behind cultural text, what does that mean, sir?
How is it communicated?
It could involve that. I think there's something deeper than that. What is behind cultural text? What does it mean, Caitlin?
I said looking what is behind, thinking about how it is communicated and how it grabs our attention.
Okay, so that is in, what's behind it though is, could it be so far as where is this coming from, or who is this coming from? So what's behind, the message is up in front, whatever that message is, and you do look at how it's communicated, but behind that message are the believers of that message. Who are those believers of that message? And why would they put a message out like that? That's what behind it. What is, when it says what's in cultural text, that would be the message that they're giving. And what's in front of it is, what kind of desired effect are they shooting for? How are they trying to get, with their cultural text, how are they trying to get what they want? I just wanted to make sure that we thought about those. Okay, let's talk about virtue, awareness, and wisdom. We hear virtue sometimes. And I'm gonna ask you how you get them, but what is virtue? Abby.
I said behavior showing high moral standards.
Even righteousness and goodness, those were some of the words, okay? So behavior, showing high moral standards. What's awareness? And I said, try and define it without using the word aware. What was it, Brett?
Knowledge or perception of a situation or fact.
Okay, so I was very aware when Samuel came into the room. Part of it is the cowboy boots. They make a different noise. And especially when you have jeans on, there's this swish, swish, swish. Like, you will listen for people and you're very aware, I hear this, okay? That's the idea behind awareness. And with Abby, I didn't get to hear you come in, but I imagine with your shoes, it went thwomp, thwomp, thwomp a little bit. And I'm aware, oh, somebody's walking past and they have at least a loose enough shoe that it can go thwomp, thwomp, thwomp. So aware, you guys understand that, I'm sure very well. What about wisdom? How did you define that without using the word wise? Which is kind of hard. How did you define wisdom?
The quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment.
Okay, which sounds a lot like virtue, but a little bit different.
I
Abby?
said smart through experience.
Okay. That would be, yep, the quality of having experience.
The action or decision with regard to the application of experience,
Okay.
knowledge, and good judgment.
Okay, so applying what you know, wisdom. Okay, very good, very good, very good. Okay, so how do we get them? Let's deal with that first. How do you get virtue, awareness, and wisdom?
Through the Lord.
I think that's very possible, yes.
Virtue results when cultivating our soul to the point where our actions may truly match our beliefs.
Very nice.
Awareness results from paying attention to things happening around you.
Okay.
And wisdom results from virtue and awareness.
Very good. Okay, let's put it in some context. Can you get virtue from the Bible? Yes, you can, because it's full of righteousness and goodness. It also has, you see sin in there very clearly, okay? Can you get virtue from other places? You say no. Is there a reason, or
I
is
said
that your
yeah.
final
I
answer?
said yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to think of something.
Well, virtue is showing high morality, so righteousness and goodness. Can you get virtue from things other than the Bible?
Maybe a little bit, but not what you need. I feel like only the Bible like truly shows it.
Okay, to the full extent, the Bible is probably the best place, but can you still learn rightness and goodness other places? Yes. Okay. Unequivocally.
We're
Yes.
kind of doing that here.
Yeah.
With these books.
Yeah.
So,
And from our parents too.
Yeah. And from your parents. And once again, parents, sinful, okay, make tons of mistakes, and yet you're still in a place where you can learn. How do you get awareness? This is kind of one of those, I don't know, it's a weird question. How do you get awareness?
From experience.
Possibly, I think. Can you expound on how that works in your head?
Well, like, you get awareness, like, through having to go through something.
Okay.
Like, if something bad happens, you have that experience from it, and so then you're more aware about things.
Very true.
Like, if you served in the army or, like, something, you come back and you're more aware of things than when you did before.
Very true. So, yes, definitely. Abby?
Also, like, through other people's experiences,
Okay.
cause like, if you're only going off of, like, what you experience, then there's only, like, a small bit of, like, awareness that you can have. Whereas, like, if you go off, like, even in the Bible, like, different stories in the Bible to, like, learn from them, and then, like, be aware of, like, different things in the world and different things that, like, can hurt us and help us.
Okay. So, from experience, yes. From other people, what else? I think there's one more, and maybe you're already missing.
I go a little bit into it.
Oh, yes. Caitlin,
Oh, that's virtue. Which one are we on, virtue or wisdom?
we are on awareness. How do you get it? How do you acquire these?
Awareness. By obtaining true virtue, which makes you more skillful and engaging it. Is what I said.
Alright. You're getting, is there also this idea of, you guys know what an ostrich is, right? And ostriches proverbially have their heads in the sand, right? And the saying, get your head out of the sand, means get your head out of the sand and look up and be aware. So, as much as we can get it from experience, and as much as we can get it from other people, awareness is also a choice to get your head out of the sand and to look around and be cognizant of, like, oh, this is what's going on. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I can see that for
So last week we talked about this, right? We're supposed to go before.
I
You didn't think about it, and I didn't.
Well, I didn't have to go.
Yeah, I know. Next time, we're gonna do that, and I'll say no. Okay, alright, how do you acquire wisdom?
Well, at my school, they taught us that we acquire our wisdom through the Lord and, like, asking for Him. Like, for Him, from Him.
Asking for it? Yeah,
Yeah,
if
that's
any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of the Lord, that's in there, so that's true. Are there other places to get
Well,
wisdom?
from learning it, like, if you're reading, you
Yeah.
learn that wisdom.
Yeah, oh, the reading and writing and sharing, I think they were on to something. Okay, let us go on to the sentence. I'll read really slow, they might be bad, probably not. Virtue, awareness, and wisdom, so we defined them, and we talked about where you get them. They generate the kind of curiosity and learning that bridges the gap between what we believe and what we do. What does that mean? I mean, it's lovely, and it made sense in the book.
Yeah, well, you take what you learn from those three and you apply it to what you believe and how you do things.
Yes, it's true. Do you guys get stumped up by that word of curiosity? Virtue, awareness, and wisdom generate curiosity and learning. Is that surprising to you at all?
Not really.
It's just a natural consequence. When you want to find out things, you will want to find out more things. See, because you guys are pretty smart. All right, let's move on to this, because we can get stuck here, I'm pretty sure. Let me see it. Okay, so it says, as image bearers of God, we're on the C part of it now. As image bearers of God, we can read, write, and share culture. Yet because of the fall, we are prone to believe lies about God, the world, and humanity. These lies threaten to destroy culture and must be resisted by wearing God's armor. Fortunately, redemption through Jesus protects what is good, fixes what is broken, stops what is evil and contributes what is missing. So I asked you some questions about this. The first thing that I said is why, according to this quote, why can we read, write, and share culture? What does it say up there?
Because we've been given the ability by God.
We're image bearers of God. That's why we can read, write, and share culture, which sometimes just knowing that is like, wow, okay, but we're not gonna stop there. Who is prone to believe lies about God, the world, and humanity?
We are
And who's the we?
the
According to this,
humanity, like man.
according to that,
The image bearers.
the image bearers of God. Which, you're not wrong, but I'm
Mhm.
just
No, I
taking
know
those
you-
words.
yeah.
So even image bearers are prone to believe lies about God, the world, and humanity. What do lies do, according to that?
Threaten to destroy culture.
Okay, they threaten to destroy, or you could say they destroy. Who else destroys that we're aware of in the Bible? Satan. He steals, kills, and destroys. Okay, how are the lies resisted?
By wearing God's armor.
Okay, let's park for a minute. What is that? What is God's armor?
Copy verse down.
Okay, go ahead.
Stand there, it's Ephesians 6:14 through 17. Stand therefore, having girded your waist with truth, having put on the breastplate of righteousness, and having shod your feet with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith with which you will be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked one. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God.
Okay, so the armor of God is the belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, your feet are fitted with the gospel of peace, shield of faith, helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit. Now, these are lovely words. What do they mean? What is the belt of truth? Or what does it appear to me? Yes?
They aren't actual physical things. It's not an actual belt, but it's a symbol of what it means, especially in the old time. I think it's the order, but there's like a whole order. You have to put this on before this, and I don't know if it was the belt, but the belt supported the breastplate to hold it on, and it's a symbol of when you're walking in Christ, what each thing represents, what you need to hold to each other and truly act out God's will.
Okay.
And be protected from people.
But I wanna be picky. Let's just think of a belt for a minute. I don't like belts, I'll just be honest.
No,
They
I
make
don't
my
either.
stomach hurt. Okay, and it's been a lifelong challenge, cause I don't like things on my stomach, so belts and I are not fun. I finally found one that I can wear, and it doesn't go all the way around, it just like stops right here. And it's cool. Anyway, that's my excitement for the day. But what does a belt do?
Holds the pants up.
Holds your pants up, all right? And normally it encircles your body, right? Can we make a spiritual application here? Truth probably should encircle you, right? And it will hold you up. Well, what's the truth then?
God's word.
Okay, we would say it's God's word, but whatever your truth is, what you choose it to be, and I'd say, Caitlin, you're quite right, but when we choose something to be truth, we are encircling ourselves with it, and we are relying on it to hold us up. It's what we do with it. Okay, let's move on to, now that's just very simple. What do we know about a belt? And what were they talking about? Because I agree with you, it is symbolism into what we were doing, but how do you apply symbolism? There's gotta be a way to apply it so that we actually use it, because we have this stance that we're in where we're supposed to be thoughtful, intentional, and it's long term. So we have to have something real that we can put our hands on and actually use. Okay, so belt of truth. What about breastplate of righteousness? What the hecaroni are we gonna do with that? How can we, most of us don't say breastplate anymore, we don't even wear breastplates unless we're going to war, but Samuel, in football, you guys don't have a thing here, but you have shoulder, right?
It's shoulder pads that comes down to your chest.
Okay, shoulder pads that come down to your chest, kinda like a breastplate. Okay, what's it for?
Protection.
Protecting you. Why is it protecting here? What's the big hairy
The
deal?
most sensitive part of your body and your heart.
Also
Mm.
hurts the most.
It also what?
Hurts the most if you get like hit there,
Ooh, it does.
especially if you get tackled.
This is true. Okay, so, righteousness as protection is what I'm getting. I'm just taking words, and we're saying breastplate is protection. So it's saying protection of righteousness. What do we do with that to make it real? What does that mean? The protection of righteousness. What would protection of righteousness be?
Like protecting yourself,
Possibly.
not getting dragged into the culture you're trying to change. That's the part of it.
I think it's very possible. There obviously is righteousness and there's unrighteousness. And if you're gonna choose to be put on protective gear, you need to put on righteousness, which is the right, the good, the virtue. Right? So fairly simple, instead of versus choosing to put on unrighteousness. Okay, belt of truth, breastplate of righteousness. Your feet are fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. So it's all about the gospel of peace and feet. What are we gonna do with this? Gospel of peace and feet, how do they work together? Or how would they see?
Feet moves us in the direction that we wanna go. So then if you use gospel of peace, then it'll help you be headed down the right path.
Okay, what is the gospel of peace? In the Bible, what do you think they meant by gospel of peace?
It's not meant to like, I don't know, give between people, just bring them together,
Okay,
stop conflict.
alright, so peace means peaceful, it means unity and community, I think you can go with that too. But what specifically in the Bible, when it refers to gospel of peace, peace is not usually capitalized, but what is that peace that they're talking about?
Is it like knowing that you're secure in the post?
You're getting closer. Peace was referencing in this place, only because I looked it up, okay, is peace with God. Being right before Him. So, shoes or feet, being ready or bringing the good news. That talks about peace with God. Now, there's a, yes,
Would this have any connection to like when people were in God's presence, they had to take off their shoes?
you know, it might have. I haven't researched it that far, but there's definitely something about shoes in there. It would be, I might try and look that up and see what I can find. But, okay, so your feet, we're surrounded by truth, we have protection of righteousness, and then we get to our feet. And there's this whole thing, feet of peace. Samuel brought up you're moving towards unity, And I said specifically in the Bible, the gospel of peace was peace with God. Yes,
Can I go to the restroom?
yes. This is the last time for that. Yeah. Just so everybody knows.
Oh my god, you have to hold
No,
it.
yeah, you're gonna hold it for the rest of your life. Okay. There is this sense of you are moving towards peace with God. Are you moving because you're trying to get it, or are you trying to bring it?
No,
Probably both.
I mean, you're always trying to learn more and get closer to God, so you're always trying to do that, but I feel like once you get to a certain point in your faith, you can start sharing it as well.
So this peace with God is not just salvation. It's an ongoing thing. And we use our feet to move to get to that point, to find that peace and also to share that peace. Alrighty, shield of faith. Take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Shield of faith. What is it? We also don't use shields on a regular basis.
In war terms,
Right.
it was a big thing of metal that protected you from arrows aimed at you to as another layer of defense before it got to your other armor.
Okay, so how can we put that in where we're at and what we're doing? What does that mean for us? The shield of faith. Could we start by saying we're gonna get shot at? There are arrows coming our way. We need to hold something up. What is it that we hold up though?
Answers. Like, I feel like nowadays everyone wants to answer a question with a question to confuse you and things like that. So like a shield is to be on your toes and ready to answer at all times with the correct answer, not just making stuff up.
Okay, so you gotta have access to the answers too, but having answers is part of your shield. Is there another part to it? That's a very doing and very other centered. What is the shield for you though?
I feel like it kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier when we said we live in the world but not of it.
Okay.
So while we love the world and we want to help change it for the better, we also guard ourselves against other ideas that people try to put in our heads, kind of like the whole question thing, trying to confuse us.
I think that's very true. I think also you guys need to, we can only hold up what we know and what we believe and what we have, you could just say, invested and taken on. That's the only thing that we can hold up. So our beliefs about God, our love for God, to the extent that we do, our choices for God, can only, that's as strong as your shield is. Because that's what you're given. Okay, helmet of salvation, which is the last thing you're supposed to put on of all the armor. Put your helmet on last. What is that? Helmet of salvation. How do we make this applicable? Have something that we can
Like
hold
it
on.
protects your mind from things.
Okay, it protects your mind from things. The helmet of salvation obviously is salvation, okay? Salvation does protect your mind, but once you ask Jesus into your heart, is that the end of it?
No.
No, it's an ongoing thing. I'm gonna get it really wrong. Transform your mind, there's a verse.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that one. I hope we all know what that is. But there is this constant thing, so also a gift of God. Okay, last one, sword of the Spirit. What is that?
Our defense.
What you used to fight back.
Ooh, what you use to fight back, our defense, same thing. And who is this sword?
The Holy Spirit.
It's the Holy Spirit. Which is just, okay, I'm sorry, that's just cool. Now, it can be the Holy Spirit because the Holy Spirit is completely God, right? And how do you feel about this whole sword thing?
You have to take action, you have to be the one to fight back when you may wanna hide behind your armor that protects you.
There is this repetitive idea of battle every day. And when we lose sight that it's a battle, we've probably lost something. And it's hard to know that as you have this posture of engagement where you're thoughtful, you're intentional, and you're long-term, you're actually showing up knowing that you're gonna have to fight. Now, also, not anything new. You guys probably already know this, but it helps when you articulate it to me. Okay, did I get all of that? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, last questions. So we talked about the armor. The only way to protect what is good, what's that, according to the quote?
Redemption through Jesus.
The only way to fix what is broken.
Redemption through Jesus.
Only way to stop what is evil.
Redemption through Jesus.
And the only way the only way to contribute what is missing.
Redemption through God.
Redemption through Jesus. Okay. What does redemption through Jesus mean?
Understanding that you did wrong and asking for grace.
I think that is a part of it.
Kind of like if you get a reward card or something, you go to a store, you have to redeem it in order to accept it. And you get the gift of that. Kind of the same concept. Jesus dying on the cross is kind of our gift card. And we have to, through the process of salvation, and as someone was admitting what we're wrong, then the card is redeemed and we get the gift.
Okay. So the power source, or the whole possibility of it in the situation, is Jesus. And he's offered redemption, which means to buy back, claim as his own. That's the only way to protect what is good. The only way to fix what is broken, the only way to stop what is evil, and the only way to contribute what is missing, all has to do with him. Once again, not anything that you don't know, but we're just putting words, your words to it. Okay, last two questions. When did Jesus redeem? In real physicality, reality, when did Jesus redeem?
When you died on the cross.
Okay, when he died on the cross. Is that the only time he redeemed us? When else did he redeem?
When he told Adam and Eve that you could sacrifice a lamb or something.
Okay, so we have the world going on because he was there and he was speaking. Another big time, what about when he shows up as a baby? Now, his ultimate payment on the cross was like, it is finished, I did it. But you see him redeeming from the beginning to the cross. Now, there is this essence though, is he done? When will Jesus redeem?
When he comes back down to earth and takes us up into the clouds.
Right, that will be the final consummation, but what about between the cross and then? What is he still doing? He's still redeeming. So it is this really long process of redemption. And it has specific moments where it's highlighted and bright. And there is a moment at which it is done. Okay, I said that was the last two. We don't have to talk about fear and friendly fire. Although, we can if you want to. The last, challenges of cultural engagement, the last thing your book talked about was fear, friendly fire, and getting too close. Fear is being afraid of opening your mouth or even doing something. And it's a real thing, because we are all afraid. Friendly fire is when you're doing the right thing and your own people shoot at you or put you down. And getting too close, Caitlin, you have been really good about saying we need to be in the world but not of the world. Anytime you get close to something and you want to fix it, not more than likely, you are in the area where you can start becoming the thing that you want to fix. You're so close to sin that it makes it really easy to sin. So those are scary areas, but yet those are the exact areas that God calls us to. However, he does not say go alone and Superman it. Obviously, duh. Okay, but I do want to ask you, which one seems more defeating? Fear, friendly fire, or getting too close? And this is just an opinion.
Friendly
Fire.
fire.
Ooh,
Yeah,
friendly fire. Friendly fire? What's defeating about that?
Well, it's because you do not expect to get criticized for the people who believe the same as you or that you trust.
Fair, same.
Like you want something to fall back on. Like even if you do get too close or you're like in a tough position and then you try to fall back on like the church or something and they go against you, then it's like you lose everything. Like what's the whole point of everything you've been doing?
It feels like you lose everything, but who have you not lost? And ultimately, it is most important what he thinks and what he says, right? And that's hard because, okay, he's spirit. We can't just go next door and touch him and see him. And those things do happen, and they will continue to happen. But once again, it's gonna feel like you lost everything. I think those are very good words and they paint a really good picture. But the truth is, we have not lost everything. If we are about God's business, if we are being obedient about what he has told us to do, then we have not lost, no matter who takes a pot shot at us. It's just that those pot shots hurt. And we can be totally honest about that. They hurt. Specifically, you guys know my parents were divorced. And it is the church that is supposed to come alongside and help. Or at least in theory, that's the idea. And oftentimes what happens is when a situation, and it can be death, it can be divorce, it can be anything, you just fill it in. People get scared, or they can only focus on the fact that that's wrong, that's sin, and they don't come alongside and they do not help. And what happens, just as Samuel said, you feel like you have nothing left. But what does that situation force you to do?
Rely more on what you do have left.
And what is that?
God.
It forces you to go straight to God. And I'm not saying it's good that that happened, but only a great God could make a situation where the fact that somebody left you high and dry and that forces you to him, only could he take that kind of situation and make it beautiful. Not easy, but nonetheless beautiful. Alright, you've been overly patient. You may go. Are you? When are you supposed to go?
No.
No, I only have you for an hour.
thought it was gonna be like 11:45, it's
Oh, yeah.
11:33.
See, I made it 3 minutes late.
It's okay.
It's 3 minutes less that we don't have to do PE or anything.